How you doing, guys? Today we are going to start this video off old school. I hope you enjoy it. Parts, and more parts. It never ends with this tractor. So in order to fix the fuel system issue I was having that I mentioned in my last video, I started to acquire replacement parts in order to just basically rebuild the entire fuel system so I can just alleviate any issues that may be lingering around. Went over to Napa, and the guy that I know over there is pretty cool. He warrantied out my fuel pump. So I got a new fuel pump for the tractor. The fuel pressure gauge itself was fine. There was no contaminants in the fittings or anything like that. So the fuel pressure gauge is just going to be reused. As I indicated, I did have a little bit of a rust issue in the gas tank. I had cleaned it out with some rocks, shaking it around, getting all that stuff out. It looked clean, but obviously I didn't do it, I guess, good enough. So I had to go ahead and just replace all the fittings. I got a new petcock for the gas tank, all the new fittings I need to connect to my hard line, as well as plumb in the fuel pressure gauge. I got a new fuel filter for it, and I actually got a new gas tank, and I'll show you why. If we look in the gas tank that I have, let's see if I can do this. There it is. You can see that I got some rust issues in there. I did put some Lime-A-Way in there, but it's still, it's just flaky. It's flaky, it's flowing through the system, and it's clogging up my carburetor. So with that, I picked up a new fuel tank, and this one is ridiculously clean. Now, I did pay a few bucks for it, but as you can see, there's absolutely no rust. Everything is minty perfect in there. So I'm real happy with that gas tank. It's going to be what I need to just have that peace of mind that the fuel system is clean. Unfortunately, there is a little bit of a crash right here, so I'm planning on painting this. I might actually put some body filler right here and just sand it out real quick. That way when it's painted, you don't see it. This leads to the next situation, which was I pulled the head. If you remember, or if you've seen in my prior video, I was getting a little bit of weeping from the head between these series of bolts right here, right in this section. So I was contemplating on whether or not I was going to pull the head, and obviously you can see I've made the decision to pull the head. So let's take a look at what we got, and I'm fairly happy with what I see. Let me turn on my light. Let's see here. Let me do it this way. Let's see if I can get. You can see that there is a. Let me just. My God, you can see my LED light blipping around, but there is just some fine scuffs in the bore right there. At the 12 o'clock position, down about a little bit more than halfway. And then we have a corresponding scuff right there towards, actually, it looks like a scratch, but that's just the LED light. It's just a light little scuff in the bore on that end. So overall, I'm not concerned about it. It looks like it ran fine. The one thing I did notice is that this thing was way overcarbureted. This thing was running pig rich the entire time it was running, and that's probably the reason why there's a scuff in the bore in general. I think I probably had a little bit of cylinder washdown when it was running. I mean, I cleaned this up. I should have left it, but this entire thing was basically all solid black and wet, even after it's sitting for like a week. So it was totally overcarbureted, and that leads me to that leads me to the next kind of fix-it issue, and that is I bought, as I indicated, a carburetor off eBay. It was considered a pulling carburetor, which was all recalibrated and everything. And you know what? It probably is an awesome carburetor, but it's too much carburetor for this motor. This is a number 30 carburetor. They have a 26 and a 30 version. Both were calibrated. I should have bought a 26. I think that this engine needs a smaller carburetor. This thing, that's the reason why I had to keep the idle screw completely closed, not even open, closed. So even at idle, it was drawing off the main jet on this carburetor. And then from there going forward, it was probably just incrementally flooding the motor. So in my infinite wisdom, what I did was I went out and to the shed and I pulled out a stock original number 30 carburetor. So I'm going to run this stock carburetor. I'm going to, obviously you can see I got it soaking. I've taken all the paint off it. It came off a wheel horse tractor. It's in real nice shape. The top, excuse me, right there, the throttle shaft is fairly tight. I do have to swap out the choke shaft for the Magnum choke shaft. The seats are real nice. I've ordered a new float, a new seat and needle for the float, and a new bowl, and obviously all new seals. So I'm going to go with that. And the reason why I'm going to go with that one is it's not going to flow as much air and fuel as this carburetor theoretically, but it's going to flow more air and fuel than a stock number 26 carburetor, which would be on the Magnum 14. I think it's going to be just the right thing for this tractor, where I can really kind of dial in the fuel and get it to run more efficiently, which ultimately will make more power. So that's the core. That's the path I'm going to go down. I did get a new spark plug. I got some new studs for the carburetor, and I'm gonna bolt the head on. Actually, we're going to head downstairs real quick, and let me show you what we're going to do with the head downstairs. Okay, so we're in the basement, and I have finished polishing the combustion chamber of the head, or repolishing it. As you can see, it's fairly nice, almost mirror, not quite. And the reason why it's not quite is because I didn't really sand the inside of the combustion chamber. I did it at the very beginning when I first polished the head. You know, when I first put the motor together with some 600, just to smooth it out. That kind of aids in the polishing process. The reason why I polished the inside of the head is not for airflow, because it is a flat head, so the airflow is pretty much never going to be good. But what you'll find is when you polish the insides of these heads, the combustion gases, the carbon, the unburnt unburnt oil, things of that nature, don't stick to the head quite as fast. You can run these engines for a while, pull the head off. You'll have like a little bit maybe around the spark plug and a little bit around this exhaust valve, but you'll notice that you can basically wipe it off with a paper towel and a little bit of brake cleaner. It doesn't bite in. So that's the reason why I do it, to eliminate any hot spots. Now, when it comes to the surface itself, I am going to resurface this on my surface plate. I was given this surface plate a number of years ago by a nice gentleman. Unfortunately, he's passed away since. And I just take this, I take a head, I'll just gently drop it onto the surface plate, and then I'll give it a little taps to see if there's any movement in the head generally. And this one doesn't have any. I'm sure there is a little bit of warp, not even a warp, a little, in it. Because it was just barely squirting some compression out between these two bolts, so right in this area. To resurface the head itself, which I'm not going to go too crazy because I already took a good amount of material off it, namely the embossment that goes around the combustion chamber all the way around. I sanded that entire piece off already. I'm going to take a black Sharpie marker, go all the way around the surface itself, obviously not in the combustion chamber, not on the cooling fins, just on the surface itself. Take a piece of 220 sandpaper on my surface plate because we know that's nice and flat. We're going to take the head, obviously flip it over, put it on there, and then I'm just going to sand it back and forth, left, right, crisscross patterns, gently until all of the marker is gone. And as soon as I see that all that marker is gone, the head is as flat as it's ever going to be. Then we're going to bring it back upstairs and we're going to reinstall the head with the studs, the hardened bolts, the hardened washers, and the copper head gasket. But just before I do that, I am going to just put a little squirt of high-tack sealant on the gasket, both sides of it, let it tack up, and then torque everything down. I used to use this stuff on steel shim head gaskets for cars. When I rebuilt my old nail head, that was the kind of gasket that those engines used. I used this, and you know, it just gives us a little extra tack to put things together. So that's the head. Let's get it installed. Okay, so that's all done. I surfaced the head on the surface plate. Everything was real nice. I did the marker routine on it like 3 times just to make sure. Definitely nice and smooth and flat. And it definitely, I took some material off, so it actually probably made the compression a little bit more. I have a brand new copper head gasket. I just scuffed it down with a Scotch-Brite pad just to make sure there's no sharp edges. There's nothing that could cause a problem. I'm going to bring it inside, let it warm up a little bit. I'm going to hit it with some high tack, just as I indicated, real quick, very light coat. And then I'm going to put this thing all back together and torque the head back down. And that should be it. That should be it. So, oh, and here's the old head gasket that I had in there. And you can see right around the exhaust port, you know, it got hot. That's what it's supposed to do. But in general, I could reuse this one. Just scuff it down with a Scotch-Brite pad and clean it. I'm going to put it in stock, and if need be, I'll reuse it again. But it's really it's in perfect shape. But I had an extra new one. Might as well just put it on and call the whole situation done. All right, guys. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to get back to work and hopefully get this thing finished up for you. Thank you very much. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. If you could give it a thumbs up, that'd be much appreciated if you enjoyed the video. And as always, have a great day.